Hey everybody, it's Justin from Built, and this is my xTool P2 Laser Engraver. I've had this a couple months, and it is really a phenomenal machine. It deserves a permanent home here in my shop. But right now I only have it on this temporary rolly cart, so we need to rectify that today. What we're going to do is build a custom workstation for this machine or any other large machine laser engraver like this. I want to address both the usual needs that I would have when working at this station, but also address some of the issues. The biggest issue is that it's big and super heavy, of course, right? This is not something that one person can really pick up and move around when they need to. So number one, it needs to be on some sort of caster system so we can roll it around, but that system needs to be stable. I've had the problem on this cart where when it's doing certain actions, it actually starts to move, even though the wheels are locked. So we need to make sure that our solution is rock solid. Next, we're going to do some custom smoke extraction solutions. So wherever I have it in the shop, I'll be able to hook it up. I'm going to do cabinetry underneath so that we can store our accessories as well as cleaning supplies. We clean this all the time, so the supplies should be with the machine, right? But the biggest thing that we're going to address is height. Height is very important with this. I have been using the conveyor belt system quite a lot. I actually built a parade float the last week for my kids' Kung Fu school. And so when you're using this, you need a big workspace for it. So I have this big assembly table, and I can have this at the end of the assembly table. So if it's the exact same height, I can set up the conveyor system and it'll work great. The problem with that is I'm 5'11", so I'm not short per se, but it is really ergonomically uncomfortable for me to reach things in here at this height. Obviously I'm on the side, it's easier in the front, but even at the front, it's not where I want it to be. So I would like to lower this machine down the rest of the time so that it's at a more comfortable work level, especially if you're somebody using this all the time and you're in front of this machine all the time. It should be at a good ergonomic, comfortable level for you. So what we're going to do is build this on top of a standing desk. That way, with a push of a button, we can bring it up to equal the height of this table, or lower it down, or bring it up for some other application as well. Whatever your needs are, it should be able to handle that. Hopefully, all the things that I'm going to do to this, I give you some good ideas for a solution for yourself. I'll have all the cut sheets, 3D printed files, all sorts of stuff. Whatever I do in this video, I'll have it for free listed at the end of the video. That way, if you want to build it too, you can. So let's get to building a great solution today on Built. So the first thing we need to start off with is a standing desk. This is the basis for our entire build here. So when I went out looking for a standing desk, there were a couple things I was specifically looking for. Number one was the leg type. The usual standing desk is a upside down T leg. So it's one pillar in the middle and then it goes to a flat piece at the bottom. But that is not super stable. And so I went looking for a 4-post leg, which is a lot more stable of a structure. These are surprisingly more uncommon though. So it took a little bit of looking. The next big criteria too was the height, the minimum height. I wanted it to go as low as possible because I really want it to be short, right? So this one is 28 inches or 0.7 meters tall. So even if you are putting a P2 with a riser on here, it's only going to come up to about here, which is about waist level for me. So I could even not lower it all the way, but the ability to be able to do so was really good. So I found this one. This one is from a company called FlexiSpot. They sent this one out to me at my request, so thank you very much, FlexiSpot. This is their E7 Plus 4-legged standing desk. It's their top-of-the-line beefy model. It can hold several hundred pounds on it. FlexiSpot makes all sorts of different designs. They even make L-shaped standing desks, so that's really cool. You can pick your tops, you can pick your colors. They have all sorts of other cool accessories too. They sent out some for me as well. So like hardwood desktop accessories, mats, cushy standing pads. They even have some really, really cool stuff. My kids went nuts when they saw this one. This is a levitating lamp of the moon on top of a walnut base, which is cool. And then my wife went crazy for this one because this is a monitor stand that FlexiSpot makes all of this stuff. So this is their design. It has USB and all sorts of stuff on it in a drawer, but the cool thing that she loved about it was that it has a UV light underneath it. So at the end of the day, she can push her keyboard under there and it disinfects it. My wife is a teacher and she works at the germ factory, so that UV light thing was like, ooh, everybody's gonna love this at work. So very cool on that one. Now, in addition to this FlexiSpot desk being able to go really, really low, it can also go crazy high at 4'5" or 1.35 meters tall. We're never going to want it this tall with the P2, but it is just really cool that it can get to be this tall. I've gone ahead and disassembled the standing desk. That way we can start doing our build. There's two big questions we need to ask ourselves before we start building this. Number one is, how wide do you want this desk? The top that came with this desk is 55 inches wide, but the P2 is only around 39 inches wide. So there's a good amount of space that is not going to be used. For me, I don't like that, and so I'm going to cut this top down to a smaller size. That way it just fits the P2 on top. I want as much space on this wall as possible for me to put other tools and stuff. So I don't want to waste space. But for you, you might use that extra space maybe for a laptop at the end to run the machine or some other purpose. So, you know, make that decision. There is a second thing that comes into play with that decision, and that is, what type of caster do we want to use for this? These are two very good options that will give stability, but also mobility when we do the build. So the first one, this is called a step-down caster. And what this will do is the wheel will retract when not in use, and then you will step down on this lever with your foot, and it will make the wheel pop down so that you can roll it around the room. That way, it's sitting on its feet when it's not in use, and then it's on the wheels when it is. So best of both worlds. This, however, mounts to the side of the desk. And when it does, and this lever is sticking out, it adds 7 inches to the width of my desk on both sides, so 14 inches. That means I'm pretty much at the 55-inch tabletop. So for me, that doesn't really work. I'm going to use something else. But why did I bother telling you about this? Well, this is the best choice for somebody who needs the desk to be as low as possible. Because this mounts to the side of the desk, these feet can actually touch the ground, which means we're putting it directly on the ground as low as possible. The next option is going to raise the desk up, which means we can't get it as low. So if you are vertically challenged, this is the type of foot that you're going to want to utilize. I'm going to go with a retractable foot. This is going to be mounted to the bottom of the desk. And basically what this does is it has a caster on it, but it also has a big rubber foot and a red dial. When I spin the red dial, it either puts the rubber foot down or brings it back up so that it's rolling on the wheels. This one is going to mean that I can make it as tight as possible width-wise, but it is going to raise it about 3.5 inches off the ground, higher than it was before. That might not seem like a lot, but if we're already like up to here, that's going to change the height of the machine up to here. And then it might not be where you want it to be. So I just wanted to make sure that I went over both options for you in case you wanted to use the other type. I'd like to mount the casters first. I was really hoping that these bolts right here would correlate to the foot. I was not that lucky, and in fact, I learned that my foot is just a hair wider than this metal foot down here. That's a problem, because if I were to just try and drill and then bolt this to the metal foot, I'd probably be drilling on the sidewall and really damage this leg right here. So what I'm going to do is first remove this foot because it's just in the way, and I'm going to add a board to the bottom of this. That way I can mount this to it. The board is just a little bit bigger, about 1/2 inch, and that way I have a little bit of clearance on both sides of the feet. In order to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill 2 holes, one at the top here and one at the bottom. There's already drilled some sort of hole here. I'm just going to poke it through the other side. I took a look through the top to make sure I wasn't going to hit anything that was vital or mechanical or anything. And then I'm going to put a temporary screw in from the top just to hold this board in place until a little bit later. I mounted my wheels to my board, and now I'm gonna just temporarily screw on these boards to the hole that I drilled in the leg. I did, on the back of these boards, grind out 4 little pockets for where these bolts are, because obviously I want to have this sit flush. Just gonna line those up and then put in our temporary screw from the back. The reason this is temporary is I definitely decided I want to bolt, and I want to bolt it to the cabinet when we built it. So this is just to hold it in place for now. The wheels are rolly. It's time for me to cut off the top. Where my legs are is exactly the size of the machine, so you can see all this extra that we have, but I'm not going to use it. But if you chose to use it, you could totally fit a large laptop there. Since I cut this side of the board, I now have a sharp corner and a whole bunch of area that doesn't have any polyurethane on it like this top does. What we need to do is round off this corner because the other 2 corners are rounded off and we want them to match. So if you only have basic tools, you can use a hand sander or even just a block with sandpaper on it to round this out, and then add some polyurethane to the side so that it matches this top. If you have a router, however, let's go ahead and look at this. I'm going to use some radius router jigs here. What these are is it's a whole collection of different round-offs. And so I can put this on here on one of my sides that's already rounded off, and I'm looking to find one that matches. This one doesn't match. That one definitely doesn't match. The R10 matches. So now what I can do is take this over to a router, hold it up against the edge of the corner of the sharp part of my board, and just use a pattern bit on my router to cut the exact same shape. And now all 4 of my corners perfectly match. Wiping on some poly, and now the colors match. Let's build our cabinet. This is the bottom piece of the cabinet. It's going to overextend farther than where the cabinet is going to be. That's because I want it to rest on top of the legs of the E7 Plus desk. In order to do that, though, we need to cut out 4 notches for the legs. We're going to do that by measuring and then using a jigsaw. You can use other saws, but a jigsaw is pretty handy for this. I have all of the dimensions and cuts at the end of the video, just in case you're following along. Okay, so it fits. I gave it a little bit of wiggle room so that we can move it around and make sure that it's perfect. Next thing I want to do is I've decided I'm going to lag screw this down into the bottom piece. To do that, what I'm going to do, there is that temporary screw that I already have here. It's underneath. I'm going to hit this with a hammer, and it's going to indent the back of the wood, telling me exactly where that screw is. Then I can go ahead and just drill a small hole through here so I know exactly where I need to drill my lag screw. After that, we can start building the cabinet in place because, as you saw, I had to catacorner this in. If I were to build the cabinet on this outside of it, I would have to catacorner it, and that wouldn't work. I could also just choose to build a full nother box and slide it in here, but honestly, that's just going to waste another 3/4 inch of height in my space, so I'm going to build it in place. One more thing that I'm going to do, this is really ugly up here in the front, being able to see the black and then the wood there. So I'm going to put a trim piece right across the front, and then you won't see any of that stuff going forward. For the large screws, I used 4 number 14s by 2 1/4 inch. For the right and the left side of the cabinet, we're going to do pocket holes along the bottom and the top to attach it. Pocket holes involve making a diagonal drilling motion into your wood. So a pocket hole jig just makes sure that you're doing that at the correct angle. Putting up the sidewalls directly against the legs, flush to the back leg and 3/4 inch from the front. The 3/4 inch gap is in case we're going to be putting a door in the front of our cabinet. And the gap in the back, by putting it flush here, allows me to put a smoke evacuation hose back here. So it's giving me a good 4 inches between the back of this and the wall, which is what I'm going to need. So make sure you're using a square. Go ahead and glue and screw in your sides using the pocket holes. I've placed my top on loosely right now just to check everything, and I've noticed that this side is bowing out a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and clamp it directly to the leg. The leg is level, which is nice. So I'm going to go around and do that to all 4 of the legs right now before I remove this, apply glue, and then screw up on the side using the pocket holes. Next thing I'm going to do is put a backer on this, and then I'm going to build some doors for the front and put dividers in. You might not want to do that though, so let's talk about why. For me, I want to enclose this to keep the dust out. This is a wood shop, lots of sawdust. I'd rather keep the stuff inside the cabinet clean. You might want to use this, however, for one of these guys. One of these air purifier systems that you can run with your laser. Now, if you're going to run this and leave it here, it needs to be in the middle, and you need to not have a front and a back because you need airflow around this. If you put it back, if you put it too close to a wall, you might impede the airflow, and then it's not going to work very well. So just keep that in mind. If you are going to box it in but still have one of these inside the cart, you're going to need to remove it before you use it with your P2 or other laser engraver because it just will not be effective in a restricted space like that. For the back, I'm going to go ahead and just glue it and hit it with the brad gun a few times. If you don't have any sort of nail gun, go ahead and just sink a couple screws into the back. My organizational goals for this was mainly to have a place to put the conveyor system. There are a lot of pieces, and so I put 2 spacer blocks in here at the height that would allow me to put a shelf right on top of that. There we go. I'm going to screw that in. It also gives me the space to put my distilled water and antifreeze and rotary, all my cleaning materials, and then of course all the feet for the conveyor belt system will probably get stacked up over here. I'm going to live in this for a little bit. I am thinking about maybe I might put a drawer in at some point for the smaller stuff. We'll see. I like to live with something for a little bit and then make sure I know how I want to tweak it. Let's talk about smoke evacuation. Over here with my xTool S1, I have a 6-inch vent with a 6-inch inline duct fan that sucks from the X1, the S1, and then it also goes over to this port right here. There's a blast gate on it, so it's closed right now when I'm not using it. But if I move the P2 over to there, I can hook a hose up to this and run it over. I wanted something that was easy for that. I have another 4-inch inline duct fan over with the 3D printer double-decker enclosure over there. But let's look at the back of the P2 here. First off, I 3D printed a 4-inch hose hookup back here to replace the 2.5-inch one that comes standard on it. I'll include the file link down below. I didn't make it, but it's listed for free. So if you have a 3D printer, you can print it. If you don't, you should get one. They're really handy with all this type of stuff. If you own one of these things, you're pretty handy yourself. I'm sure you'd be able to use one, but you can buy these on Etsy. Now that I have this, I need to decide about what to do with the hose to get it over to a pipe that I'm eventually going to put over here. So to do that, I'm going to use 4-inch dust collection flex hose. This is okay for this purpose. Why I say okay is it would be better if you used smooth PVC pipe or a metal pipe, because like ducting pipe, because it allows airflow without all these ribs in here, kind of slows the airflow down a little bit. But there's 2 reasons why I can't do that. One, we have this guy right here, and when we use the conveyor system, the hose wants to just come straight out, right? But xTool provides us with this lovely sticky and zip tie thing to just kind of move it to the side. It doesn't work, so we need to build something over here. But I want to snake this kind of around down to the bottom here, and then I'm going to use this. This is a screw-on coupler that I'm going to put on the back. I'm going to run the hose to this. That way, from this coupler, I can either hook it up to the hose that I have coming out of here, or if I move it over there, I can hook it up to that hose. It's just going to kind of make it easy. The reason why I need this flexi hose is if I used a rigid PVC pipe, the standing desk would be worthless because it wouldn't be able to go up and down if I screwed it to this cabinet. But because I have this flexi pipe, it works like an accordion. See, so I can actually make it compact right here. And then if the table raises, the accordion will expand and then go back down again. So it will not inhibit the motion of this machine. So that's really why I want to use this right here. I think to bend this over to the side and hold it in place, I'm going to cut a notch out of the top of this cabinet. That will allow me to push the hose this way so it doesn't push off the back of the wall here. And I'm gonna build another holder, maybe a piece of wood that's a divider here, just that the hose will literally droop over. I don't even really need to use a bracket, I don't think. We'll play around with it a little bit, but the main option is to keep it out of the way of the conveyor belt system and over to the side. So I glued and screwed two pieces of wood together. This is on our cut sheet. I also notched out the bottom of the one so that I can sit it on top of here, but also have as much contact with this corner as possible. That way I can glue it and screw it in place and it's going to stay really well. The door is still able to open and close behind it, and the hose will then go over this little wall that I made and route it down. We can then take a zip tie or some sort of strap and strap it to this wooden corner that I made so that the hose stays put. I have my corner guide in place. I can put my hose over here, holds it in place. I can now open up my back panel without it being impeded by this. Next, going to screw on this hose adapter, and what I want to do is put it at a diagonal. I don't want to put it at a 90 degree turn, so like a full 90 like this. It restricts the airflow, so you don't want to do it whenever you have the opportunity not to. I had to do it up here, but I don't have to do it down here. I can choose to do something else. So rather than it being, a full 90 degree, I'm going to turn it diagonal, so it's more of a sloping curve as it hooks into this. I put on my front trim piece. Made it look a lot nicer. Now the last thing to do is to make two shaker style doors for the front. Shakers are super easy. You just cut a groove into the rail and style here, and then you insert a middle board. But since we're making a cart for a laser, we should laser engrave that middle board, whether it be my logo or something else. I don't know. I'm going to think of something, and then we'll all be finished with this build. All right, we are all done with this build finally. I think it came out pretty decent. Basically what we have our cabinet. Down inside the cabinet, I can put all of my accessories. I can put my cleaning supplies and stuff. We have the ability with the press of a button to raise this up to a higher height. I have my number 2 preset to exactly match my assembly table. And then my number 1 brings it all the way down. That way, it's going to be at a really convenient height for me. When this is all the way down at its bottom position, this is at my belly button. So it's actually a really nice ergonomic spot for this to be in. So I'm very happy with that. We have the locking casters on here that will, go to feet in just a few seconds. Then in the back, we have, trying not to lose anything. I just put a power strip in the back. I have to leave the cables loose back here because as it raises and lowers, if I were to tuck them somewhere and tie them down, they would, that wouldn't be good. So same thing with this expandable hose. As we move it up, you'll see the hose will raise and expand. No problem. So overall, I think it's pretty good. I want to thank FlexiSpot for sending out this E7 Plus 4-legged standing desk. I'm a little channel. It's nice when sponsors send me things that are exactly what I need for the build that I need to do. It helps me out quite a bit. So check them out if you want to take a look at their stuff. I'll have it linked down below. I hope you got some good stuff from this video. I will put up all my cut sheet next in case you're looking to follow along. Stay safe in the shop, and I'll see you in the next one.